Okay, so I want to show you on the guitar itself where we have that pattern fitting. So we start on the D here, so it's going to be like 2, 3, 4. So that's right where it's on the third string from the top. So we've got here, right here, 2, 3, white D, green, and 4 there. But now instead of the 5 being straight up above the 2, we had to warp it up over to get the 5, 6, and then return to the 7 root 2, like that. Okay, so I have a little diagram here going on, and this is, I think some people call this the fretboard conveyor belt. It's basically you can be in any key by calling the fret nut in a different place. So let's see if we could stop this thing. Okay, I had to stop it somewhere. Alright, this one's a little slower. They still don't want to stop. But, so we have to stop it from going. This one goes a little slower. So you see the different keys here. Here's F sharp. There's the key of G. But somehow we want to stop this GIF and it's not stopping. Alright, I finally had to get a different diagram. I couldn't stop those GIFs. Graphic interface files. Or interactive. So here's what we were looking at. On my guitar it was white, the D, but since then I've colored it light purple. So we would have the 2, 3, 4 there, but then we have to warp up the 5 and the 6 and then return to the pattern right there. So it's like an S2L. So the unwarped pattern itself, okay, the unwarped pattern itself, was more like this. The original pattern, as it was in the S2L the S3L pattern, would have looked like this: 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 root 2. And indeed, we do have those that are lower down on the strings here, where we might start from here: 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 root 2. So that's another, that's another example of shape fitting through the tuning warp. Okay, so we've discussed we kind of exhausted the shape fitting. That's part of the game. And in this particular fretboard, what do we have? So let's look at the D cage vertical string pattern stack. Alright, so one last time we have to go down here for a second and look at how we assign these string patterns. So we have this stack, and this is the magic stack. This is where we get our 5 cage shapes from, and they can be done in any key. And each of these each of these pattern members, let's say, the top, the middle, and the bottom of the S3L, the bottom of the S2L, and the top of the S2L, each of them has a unique set of numbers and an arrangement, a half step or a whole step, just like in a scale. So from 6 to 7 to root, from 7 to root is always a half step. Unless you're looking at a mixolydian, and then from 7 to root is a dominant. It's a whole step. So we put a letter assignment to each of these, because when each of these string fragments here is the bottom string of a string build, of a cage build, so from 3 to 3, when we're going from 3 to 3 with 6 strings, we're going to call that a C. When we're going to from 6 to 6 in 6 strings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we're going to call this particular string pattern a G. When we're going to from 2 to 2 with 6 strings. We're going to call this bottom string pattern of that 2 to 2. We're going to call that, it's got its own name now, 2, 3, 4. We'll go to 5 to 5, which is the A-shaped pattern, which would become an A-shaped fretboard. We're going to call it the 5 to 6 A. That's what we're going to call it. Just the 5 to 6 right there. Same thing with the E. 7 to 7 with this 7 root 2 would become the bottom string, and we're going to call that E. So now we have our 5 pattern shapes: C, A, G, E, D. And in the D build, the D would be the top and the bottom string, because G goes back to D anyway. And you can look at it in fifths. So the fifth of G is D. So you can look at these letters just like they were notes again, but they represent these string patterns. So in the decaged vertical string stack, that's just something I found interesting. So I thought I'd show you that. They line up like that. It kind of catches your eye, but really the string patterns don't. The string patterns are kind of skewed. So what we have here is we have a whole a full S3S right here, an S3L. All right, we have an S3S right here. We have an S3L here with the 4 and the 7. And then, but what happened to our S2L? We hit the tuning differential here. We had to warp the pattern up there, and then this is what we end up with. So this would, the top one's the start of another S3L. So the top one's actually the start of another one, would be way up here, because we'll have that whole 2, 3, 4 built again. So that makes sense. It's not just arbitrary that the top string and the bottom string are the same. All right, so that's the decaged vertical string stack. It's just another way of looking at, if you keep the center label part of the string shapes constant, then you can see how the string shapes go. The D string shape goes off to the right. The A stays in the middle. The E and the C go off to the left with the the double root pairs, half step pairs, and the D and the G go off to the right with the half step pairs. So that's interesting, and that's your D shape pattern. That's, if you play this where you can play it up here on the fretboard, I can play it down here. It'd go. Now I'm going to have to, oh no, I'm not going to have to warp that up, because that's exactly how it is. That's particularly exactly how it is. So because of the tuning differential, we have some strange shapes here. And, you might think, what's going on, It's just the way it works out. Let me show you something. All right, let's look at a real old diagram. When I had to figure this out, I had to make this 20 string, pattern. I wanted to see how these worked out. And you'll find that this is all P4 tuning. So there's fourths in between each one of these strings. I found out how this pattern would go. You'd only see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 accidentals in a row, and I wanted to see, maybe I could do something like figure out the pattern by playing all of the accidentals, like in the key of G flat. So if you play all the accidentals, the black notes on the piano, you're playing a G flat pentatonic. See how easy it was to find those notes? So that's what you'd only see 5 of these in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the normal pattern stack.